YouTube, it's Monica, and today I'm going to talk about your child's need to succeed. I know that sounds really obvious at first. Of course, kids need to have a feeling of success. They need to do well. But I'm actually talking about the fact that we're good at things that we like, and we like things that we're good at, and we definitely don't like things that we're bad at. But what I think it comes down to is we're good at something, and then we like it. Sometimes we like things that we're bad at, that's true, but we rarely dislike things that we're good at. How do you get good at something if they're not good at it? So they've decided, well, I don't care, I hate this, So how do you get them out of that cycle? Because when they're in that mental state, then they don't try hard. If they don't try hard, they don't improve. If they don't improve, they're still bad at it. And we don't tend to like things that we're bad at. You ever hear about how smiling can make you happy? Like, obviously we do smile when we're happy, but have you ever heard about the studies, and there's a lot of them, that show that when you smile, you actually will feel happier. I mean, maybe you won't feel giddy with excitement, but you will feel better. Your mood will lighten. It's the same kind of thing. As you start to get good at things, you will find that you like them. So I'm going to just take a moment and explain my epiphany. Here goes. I had an epiphany. I had this crazy idea to coach both of my kids' soccer teams at the same time. And I've never coached soccer. And I was a little shocked. My kids like soccer. One more than the other, but they both like soccer. That's why they're in it. When my kids were really little, I just signed them up for stuff. But now that they're getting a little older, I sign them up for things that they like, Well, I'm finding that's not the case for everyone. So that was my first sort of realization. Because I was saying, well, why won't these kids that they were not doing well at all. And I thought, why? Well, one thing I realized is that a lot of them just don't really like soccer. They're probably signed up for it so, they can get exercise. And I don't disagree with that. I'm just saying that's hard as a coach to try to teach kids something they don't wish to learn, especially when soccer is a difficult sport and it takes a lot of effort. It's hard. And how do you get kids to do something hard that they don't want to be doing? So then weeks go by and we have like 4 games and they lose every single one, every single game. So now I have a new problem. Now they think of themselves as losers. For those of you who have not been in team sports, if you start winning, you think of yourself as a winner and you try harder and you hustle more. If you start losing, even within one game, but even worse over a season, if you start losing, you think of yourself as a loser, sadly. And I think this totally applies to life. Like, the worse you do, the less you try, and the more you project to other people. This loser kind of projection. So, yeah, so the kids were losing every game, and I said, oh no, now they're gonna think of themselves as losers. What do I do? So I had an idea. I said, I need to make them winners. Well, that's easier said than done because they're not. They're not winners, guys. They're not. So I said, okay, what can I do? How can I give them a little feeling of success, a little feeling of winning? Well, I did some things in practice. I picked a couple of like exercises, drills, sort of things, that they naturally hustled a lot, and there were only a couple. Most of the time, these kids, you couldn't get them to go faster than a slight jog unless you seriously threaten, make them do burpees, stuff like that. Other than that, they're not running, they're not hustling, they're just not interested. So I set up a scenario where I picked a couple of things that they liked and they hustled a lot more. And unfortunately everything can't be like that, or you don't really learn, but I spent like 2/3 of the practice like this. So first of all, they picked up the pace a ton and hustled. And then I set it up so that the kids were in teams of 2. And I would specifically put a strong and a weak player so that the strong player would have to pass to the weak player. And I set it up so they had to make passes too. See, the strong players don't want to pass to the weak players because the weak players do lose the ball. Whenever the ball gets passed to them, they lose it. Understandably, the strong players are like, well, it's better for me not to pass and me to try to hold on to it. But really that isn't good because then that's just one player against a whole other team. I set it up so they had to pass, and the weak players started receiving passes. Bam! Winning! They won. It was a little win, teeny, teeny, tiny win. But to a kid that can never receive a pass without losing it, that's not such a tiny win. That's kind of a big win. It was a little tiny epiphany for them, right? That, hey, someone can pass to me and I can actually receive the pass and not lose it. I can do that, right? Because the way I had it set up, it was only those two people on the team. And then what I started seeing was that the kids that were a little weaker, a lot weaker, they started hustling and actually trying to shoot. And that's been another problem, is the kids won't shoot. And they did. And a lot of times they made the shots. It was amazing. It was such a different practice. And I realized I had set up a situation where the kids were winning, you know, the kids that would never take shots were taking shots and making the goals. The more experienced kids were finding out that they could pass to the inexperienced kids, and those inexperienced kids, if given a chance, could learn how to not fumble the ball, not lose it. And those kids learned that they could make passes, that they could take a shot and make it. And so I'm really optimistic. This has only been one practice, but I'm very optimistic that it will at least improve their performance in the game, because I want to give them a win, not because I need to win, but because they will feel better and they'll have more fun. And I think that they will get a little more drive. And this brings me around what I'm talking about with the homeschool, because I realized this doesn't just apply to soccer. This applies to everything, right? This applies to work life. This applies to school. This applies to everything. This reality that when we're bad at something, we don't like it. Well, how do you give the child a feeling, at least sometimes, that they're good at something when they are bad at it? Well, you're just gonna have to work and set up little scenarios. So I'll give you one little example with writing. So there's a couple ways they're gonna get better. One way is to just make them write on a daily basis. If they're exhausting you, just make them write a journal entry, like a page of writing. Just by the act of writing, they'll get less resistant to just the act of moving a pencil along a page, right? And eventually they'll start to get good at it. So once you're gonna pass that resistance, you can start to do things and you can have more fun. They're gonna start to see that they're better at it and they won't be so negative. Here's one fun thing that we're doing. We are putting together a magazine for homeschoolers, written by homeschoolers, because how cool is that to get a magazine and there's an article, you wrote the article, or a story or a poem or something that you wrote, and it's printed in a magazine. So like, yeah, that's only one writing assignment, right? But it's a chance for the kids to look at something and say, I did that. That's cool. It's a feeling of pride. It's a feeling of success, of winning, however you want to put it. So you give them these little chances. For a little kid, a lot of little kids will not want to write, like a little kid like 6 years old or something, they won't want to write. But if you have them tell you a story and you write it down, and then when, you know, mom or dad comes home, whichever parent, you know, is not doing the main homeschool work, and you say, hey, why don't you go show dad your story that you wrote? Just say it like that, right? Because it is their story. Then they're gonna have a sense of pride, and you took away the hard part. So what you need to do is find their resistance. There's many aspects to writing. There's the creative part, there's the organizing your ideas, there's the actually physical writing. There's many aspects. So you wanna take one of the hardest things away, but you want them to still be writing and getting that practice. And then with that example, as the child gets older, you can write down their story that they tell you, and then they can copy it out. So then they also get the practice of writing, because there's something about writing it as you think of it that my kids were really, really hesitant about. I mean, it just caused major issues. But if I wrote it down and then they copied it, that really helped them. So just find little ways for them to succeed. With math, this is a beautiful thing about homeschool. You do not have to move on until they're ready. So don't give them stuff that is going to make them feel stupid, right? Give them stuff that's just a little challenging, and they do it, and they'll be like, hey, cool, I did this, and praise them. Hey, that's such a good job. You did that, and you did it in a good amount of time, and find things to praise, set them up to succeed. I don't want you to think I'm saying have low expectations. Just set them up to be successful at least sometimes, with some regularity, not necessarily every day even, or all day every day, but set up little things where they can succeed, at least in little ways, so they can start to question that narrative that, hey, I'm bad at this. Because what a lot of kids do is they say, they know they're bad at it, so mentally, so they don't get depressed, they say, I don't care, I don't like it anyway. That's what kids do. That's what we all do. So that's my little video today, guys, on how your kids really do need to succeed. They need to. They need to feel like they are good at something or a little good at something. Then after a while, they will get better because they will start trying a little more. We don't really want to try at stuff that we feel we're hopeless at, right? What's the point? If you're hopeless at something, why would you even put any effort in it, right? So give your child some chances to feel successful. Build that and think about that, right? You don't want everything to be a struggle all the time. If you give your kids a chance to feel like they are successful, they will start trying harder. And that's what you want. You want to start to build up a situation where the kids are trying. And backing off isn't going to do that. A lot of people say back off, like if there's a problem with writing, back off, guys. Just don't do too much writing. Bad idea. Because when you back off, what is going to happen is they're not going to get the practice that they need. You don't improve if you don't practice. You don't improve. If you don't improve, those kids know they're still bad at it. If they haven't got any better, they know they're bad at it. If they're bad at it, they're not going to like it. Okay, guys? So I hope you found this video useful. Click thumbs up, like the video, share the video, and click the little bell, guys, so you can get notifications, okay? Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.